Good afternoon, everybody. For folks who are just joining on now, we're going to give it about maybe 30 seconds, and then we'll get started. All right, see some folks still jumping in here, so give it another 10 seconds, then we'll get going. All right, let's get started. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Stefan Saliba. I'm a strategic account executive here at Paperless Parts. I cover from the go-to-market team our Northeast territory. That includes the United States as well as Eastern Canada. So I like to think I'm the neutral third party here to talk about market volatility. This webinar is called the Paperless Preview, Managing Market Volatility with Paperless Parts. What we're going to go over today is really managing the business the way you've always done, always have, will be challenging in 2025. Whether it was the tariffs in 2018, COVID-related impacts in 2020, or recent headlines related to new tariffs, the manufacturing industry is constantly tasked with weathering market volatility. Quoting was hard enough before, but now there are ever-changing nuances slowing down your ability to quote new work and requote quickly. So we'll go over some of the challenges with traditional quoting methods today and show off how some shops are using paperless parts to stay agile in a volatile market. I'll save some time to answer any questions, any what-ifs at the end. Please feel free to throw them in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them at the very end. Also, this call is being recorded, so if you ever want to come back to this, we'll send it over at the end. So first, I want to start off by talking about what you're not going to learn today, and that really is where tariffs are going. No one knows what will happen, and the situation changes almost daily. What everyone agrees on, however, is irrespective of political lean, this will be a new normal for a while. Managing your business and processes are going to require more work, not less. Tariffs are either going to go one or two ways. You're going to need to do more with less. Fewer resources, or you're going to have to keep up with increased quote volume. In either scenario, there's more to consider in volatile markets. There's more risk, and it's going to make quoting more time consuming, not less, as you think about new suppliers, new markets, new customers, new costing nuances. So for that reason, Paperless Parts really has been inundated with interest from both sides of the border. And we've seen some pretty cool things going on in the platform of how shops are dealing with this. That's why we put together this webinar. The challenge with quoting today, where our shops typically come from, is either Excel or quoting in the ERP system. In volatile markets, there's really four things that cause challenges. One is ensuring your team is using current rates and pricing. If the price of copper goes up or the price of aluminum goes up or there's a new tariff impact, how do you make sure everyone is using across the shop the correct logic and correct rates, prices, et cetera? Accounting for costing nuances, like in this market, particular country of origin, both from your materials, your customers, or even your vendors' perspective. There's a million things to think about when you think of quoting. Now there's 1,000,001, maybe 1,000,005. How do you make sure everyone on the team is not forgetting about that? That's hard to do with manual processes today. We hear a lot of folks say, yeah, it seems like aluminum went up, but what do I do? What is that? How does that impact my current pipeline? That's hard to do when quoting is in multiple systems, silos, et cetera. How do you quickly figure out how does any particular news article or press release change your shop and the impact, and how does it impact you today? That's a challenge. People are flying a little bit blind in that aspect. And then how do we quickly adjust logic, rules, markups on the fly as things change for any new quote or quickly requote existing work? That's why folks come to us. And so what we're going to go through today is an example. Let's say you come into the shop floor this morning and there's a new tariff in effect, as well as your purchasing lead saying, hey, aluminum pricing is a little bit higher. How do you update that in Paperless Parts? So we'll go through a few different aspects here. The first off is really how do I update my current logic to account for these nuances? So what I'm looking at here is an outstanding quote that I've sent out that I now want to requote. In Paperless Parts, we have tools to track revisions and keep organized around what's changed. As you can see here, we have 5 line items. I have some sheet metal parts, some fabricated parts. As we open up some of these costing rules, you can see information is locked. As you send out quotes, we keep a record of what you sent up to the customer. That allows us to organize all that information, make sure we understand the history here. But then we also give you the ability to create revisions relatively quickly. So now instead of 8098, we have 8098-1. From here, what we'll look at is what kind of rules we can set up to account for nuances. So in our account, Paperless Parts is driven by costing rules and the costing engine on the back end. What we've seen a lot of shops do is create some pretty cool rules. One of the things we've seen is adding country of origin. So in Paperless Parts, we can set up rules based on the customer, based on the information off of the model or the print, based on work centers, based on volume, even drop downs like a questionnaire type format. And so what you're looking at here is some of our customers have created this country of origin. This can impact what pricing rules we want to set up. So for example, if country of origin equals USA, tariff markup does not apply. There's a 50% markup that we included on here. However, if I were to adjust the country of origin to, let's say, Canada, now we have a markup of that 50% that applies. So this is a rule, it's a what if, right? If we wanted to adjust this on the fly, let's say it went back down to 25%, in the configures tab, we have pricing items, we have configuration engines on the back end that are easily adjustable. So if I wanted to come in and let's say adjust this tariff to 25% for every new quote that comes in, what I can do is I can come back to the top here, refresh pricing. And now I have that 25% marked up on every future quote. If I want to look at the history here, I can see what changed, 25 to 50 or 50 to 25. And now we can very quickly move things on the fly. Some of the other things I may want to do, especially when market volatility, is lower how long my quote is good for. So within Paperless Parts, we have variables and templates that we can set up as part of the onboarding that can be easily adjusted as things change. So in my account, I have 24 hours as a default time to quote. I have my quote good for 7 days. And as I assign tasks, maybe they're good for 24. As we saw in 2020, that 7 days really shrunk down to at its closest 24 hours. And so maybe what I want to do here is make that only good for 3 days. And now every future quote that comes out of Paperless Parts will only be good for 3 days. If it goes longer than that, it will say, hey, this quote expired, please request a requote. This allows us to keep track and really shorten the amount of time our quotes are good for to keep up with volatile markets. The other thing I may want to do, and what a lot of shops leverage, is our ERP integrations. Now we integrate with over 30 different ERPs. A lot of information around cost per pound, inventory, availability is typically in the ERP system. And so if I'm looking at this part and for 5052, I have a cost per pound here of 5.84. That information is being pulled from my demo account, but it's being pulled from a table that I can pull in from the ERP system. That could be things like last cost, standard cost. In volatile markets, people typically shift from standard costs, average cost, to last cost. And as purchasing is putting in information into the ERP, we can live sync that in. So you're using the most up-to-date information. We also timestamp any record that comes into Paperless Parts. So if you've updated this in 2015, maybe we don't want to use this. So what a lot of shops do is they'll create a rule that says if price is older than a month, don't use it. If material equals Inconel, don't use the price if it's greater than a day. Those are sort of the rules we can set up to make sure everyone is using current rates, current markups, and current pricing. With any rules-based engine, this isn't fixed at all or static. We can pull this information in, and then maybe we go and get updated pricing, and maybe I want to adjust this to $7. I can do that on the fly and show off how that impacts my cost very quickly. So all of that is really to make requoting a breeze, update cost logic, et cetera, on the fly. Some of the other things we can do around handling volatile markets is really how do we sharpen cost? How do we make sure we understand and really are being competitive with what we're putting out there, maybe to win new business? And there's a few tools we have in that aspect. One is our nesting tool. So how do we understand material utilization and really sharpen the pencil on what material costs look like for quotes that are going out the door? So for something like this sheet metal part, we have a nesting module. This allows us to nest components across multiple line items, similar thicknesses, and even different quantity breaks. As I dive into this particular example, we have sheet metal nest as well as linear nest for 2 parts. We can pull information around standard bar, rod, or sheet sizes that I would use, pulling data out of the ERP, including cost per sheet, nesting behaviors, as well as how are we going to distribute that price and even what grain direction looks like. Now, for an estimate, this typically does a good job of getting a very competitive material utilization number, and certainly something you could use to sharpen the pencil. On machine parts, what we're looking at is setting up rules to figure out what's my material and how many parts can I fit on a bar, rod, or sheet based on the work center I'm selecting. So we can have rules that come in that look at particular rod ends, part buffer, kerf widths. Even for the dimensions of this particular part, figuring out how many parts can fit on a certain rod that I selected. I can adjust this to very quickly figure out how does that change my material utilization. And then for each quantity break, how many bars do I need? What we also have are other sources to gather information real time. So in this example for this machine part, this turn part, for shops that are quoting in US dollars, we have the ability to gather live pricing from shops like, or from vendors like Online Metals and ThyssenKrupp. I can pull in for this particular pipe, I can see the part dimensions here, what my material looks like. I've requested this in the past. Maybe I want to come in and request a requote. This allows us to pull directly from these 2 vendors to gather what that pricing is. You can see that very quickly on the fly. What we also have is the ability to pull purchase component information either from your ERP, if that lives in a purchase component table, or live pricing with our partnerships with Penn Engineering distributors. So we can look at here, for example, I have DB Roberts. I can look at HTF, SW Anderson, and very quickly see what my pricing breaks are, as well as inventory on hand for this particular component. Again, there's a million things shops have to think about and look through. Let's make sure you're not having to go to 5 or 6 different systems to get the information you need to see live pricing at your fingertips. You can see here when the price was last updated. I can save this down. I can even see inventory directly from somebody like DB Roberts. Last but not least, and flying by a little bit quickly, there's quite a few rules we can set up. As part of any sort of evaluation, we typically talk through what our customers are doing today and translating what you guys have and bringing that into Paperless Parts. The whole idea is Paperless Parts is a centralized quoting tool allowing multiple people and departments to work on a quote at the same time. To make sure we're using best practices, a lot of shops are setting up rules that are a good baseline and approved by corporate, and allowing the team to very quickly adjust and have visibility on what changes were being made. Where shops are coming in volatile markets is making it crystal clear on what things can be changed, what things can't be changed, And as articles, press releases, et cetera, come out, very quickly adjusting the logic on the back end. So no one has to worry about, are we using the most up-to-date information or not? Can certainly dive in deeper on what's possible within Paperless Parts, but just wanted to show off some of the things our customers are doing. The other thing I'll talk about, which ties back to our visibility, is how do we make sure we know what's going on in Paperless Parts or what's going on with our outstanding quotes. Every data field in Paperless Parts is an opportunity to gather data on. So as we're sending out quotes through Paperless, we start gathering some great data that we can use to track and report on. Some of the things that a lot of our shops like looking at is this dashboards view. You can set up custom views at a quote level or at a line item level. And what this allows you guys to do is very quickly see what's my material breakout by outstanding quotes or even draft quotes, and very quickly see, and simulated data here, very quickly see what's going on. I can take this a step further. Within Paperless Parts, we have some robust analytic tools where I can look at, hey, if somebody asks me what's my outstanding material by type out of all of my quotes, I may want to create a dashboard that looks at each material family, the status equals outstanding, how many quote items are out there, what's my average cost, and this is a data field I happened to look at as I set up this report, and what's my profit percentage to figure out, is there room to go down on this? I can take that a step further and create a view both on a visual standpoint or even on a table standpoint. Let's dive into maybe something like 50-52. How many quotes have I sent per week over the last 5 weeks here? To break it down even further across that 80 quotes here that I have outstanding. I can even look at it, let's say for last week, I've had 21 quotes that are quoted aluminum 50-52. About one quote looks like 60-61 T6 and cold roll about 9. Again, it's really hard to look at this information when you have information all over the place. So how do we get everything in Paperless Parts so you can have visibility and adjust on the fly and adapt based on information you have at your fingertips? That's why we've built this. If I want to dive in a little bit deeper here, and let's say which quotes specifically are these quotes representing, I can just come in, edit this query, and maybe I want to look at quote number. Let's see. I think I had it in the right spot. Here we go. Quotes number. There we go. Don't do math on live TV. Here we go. This is where we can look at all the quotes that are outstanding. What quote specifically does it look at? I can then come in, search that quote, go right to it. These are some of the few ways that Paperless Parts can help address some volatility in the market. That was maybe a very quick example of what's possible within Paperless Parts. We have, off the top of my head, probably about another 15 that we can dive through, specifically built to handle volatility and allow folks to be as dynamic and agile as possible. Outside of volatility, quoting is the goal of quoting is to generate a price that the customer is willing to accept at a profit margin that's acceptable for the business. That means there's always nuance, there's always flexibility, there's always expertise involved with quoting. So some of the tools we have listed up here are really designed to help shops have that flexibility, the same amount of flexibility as Excel, while giving you the best visibility, transparency, information gathering as Excel or as an ERP system. So certainly willing to dive in deeper on some of this information. The goal of this was to talk through how some shops are dealing with the market volatility today. Happy to answer any questions here. I know, Ali, you're on the line here. I don't know if there's any that we can look at.
Not yet. Give people a couple minutes to submit some.
Great. Yeah, as a reminder, folks, if there are any questions, please throw them in the Q&A chat as well as either or, as well as the webinar chat as well. We have about 10 minutes or so that we can dive into what ifs, is it possible to do X, Y, Z, etc. Chris, thanks for the question here. Are Canadian customers able to get access to the American PEM pricing since it's not currently available for Canadian vendors? Answer is not today unless you are quoting within paperless parts within USD. The Canadian expansion is over the last, I would say, year or so. Certainly, as we continue to expand into Canada, some of that functionality will be available. It's just not something we have today for customers quoting in CAD. Great, thanks. I'll give it another minute or so for questions. I'll hang around a little bit, but for the folks jumping on here, thank you. It's certainly an opportunity for us to talk about how paperless parts can help. If you'd like to learn more, please feel free to get in touch with me directly or the Paperless Parts team via paperlessparts.com/demo. Looking forward to chatting a little bit further. And again, thank you guys for the time.